Ah, hello, dear friends, and welcome back for this second part of our whispered read through castles. A lovely book I procured from my local library, which details the history of many castles throughout the ages and takes us on tours of the inside and tells us a little bit about key moments in their history. To start off this second part, we're going to be slightly macabre, I guess, with Down in a Dungeon. Here are some items of torture or dungeon instruments. The oubliette, a forgotten room, an awful punishment. Beneath a trapdoor, a room so small. Once a prisoner was lowered inside, they could not sit, kneel, or even turn around. Can you imagine how achy and painful and claustrophobic that would be? Scold's Bride. A metal frame placed around the head and had a metal bit for the mouth to stop the wearer from talking. Manacles and chains. Classic weighted balls and wristbands to stop people from moving around or moving far. Branding somebody's skin permanently with a red-hot instrument. Scavenger's Daughter, a hideous device. A hinged iron hoop that held the prisoner's body in a painful position. The Scavenger's Daughter was usually saved for people who committed treason against the king or queen. And public punishments. Moat ducking stool. Dunked into water. A pillory where you would be pelted with rocks, rotten vegetables. Gallows. Obviously the ultimate punishment was execution, a wooden structure used for hanging. Southsea Castle. England, July 1545. King Henry VIII of England had long worried about enemies crossing the Channel. So to prepare, he built a series of forts along the coast, including Southsea Castle, which protected the wealthy city of Portsmouth. Henry was actually inside it in 1545 when the French attempted to invade. He sent his fleet to meet the enemy ships and they managed to repel the French forces, but the English flagship Mary Rose was sunk. The legend of the Mary Rose. In 1828 a lighthouse was added to the castle to help guide ships sailing to Portsmouth. It's a unique shape there with bastions. And it was built quite quickly in just 6 months because the king feared an attack from France. It looks like he was correct then in his haste. Predjama Castle. They presented this very dramatically. Castle in a cave. Look at that. When the area was a part of Italy, in Slovenia. Oh dear. According to the legend, a knight called Arasamluga was besieged in the castle in the 15th century and was killed by a cannonball while he was sitting on the toilet. It's the world's largest cave castle. Secret passages, a colony of bats and a legendary death in the loo. Welcome to Predjama Castle. This incredible fortress was built at the entrance to a vast cave. You could do a stealthy escape in an underground cavern. Interesting choice. I suppose you wouldn't be besieged from the other side. Clever idea. Heidelberg Castle in Germany. There was a conflict at the time here in 1618 between the Catholic Holy Roman Emperor Ferdinand II and the Protestant parts of the country, and a war began that would become the 30 Years' War. Lovely terraces, bell tower, apartments of the family, there it is there, as it is today. It was partly restored in the 19th century, but according to the myth, a witch tried to bite through the metal ring on the gate in order to become the owner of the palace, However, she only succeeded in breaking her teeth. Everyone loves a trier. Check this out, in 1591, a massive barrel that could hold 130,000 litres of wine, that's 34,000 gallons, was built at the castle. Building these huge barrels was a bit of a competition in the area. To create a regal residence fit for an English princess, Friedrich built the English building, a castle within the castle. And as another surprise gift to his wife, he created the artillery garden, a private space within the castle walls. So Friedrich very generous with the architecture. What kind of things are inside a castle? Well, we've seen many of these already, haven't we? A dungeon, bedroom, kitchen, great hall, chapel, and a well. Of course, important to have a good well if you're under siege. Here we have Goodrich Castle, England, December 1643, overlooking their pretty green countryside and a winding river. Who could imagine a more peaceful setting than Goodrich Castle? But it was caught up in the English Civil War. Good friends became bitter enemies as King Charles I and Parliament were locked in a power struggle for the right to rule. The Castle of Goodrich. According to legend, 2 ghosts of people who died during the Civil War haunt the castle. So if you want to go ghost hunting, go check out Goodrich Castle. A postern gate could be used for escape, but the main entrance was being attacked. This little door. The Lady's Tower was the residence of the mistress of the castle. A cannon attack on Goodrich Castle, 1646. In the middle of summer, the parliamentarians decided to lay siege to Goodrich and capture it once and for all. There were around 170 royalist soldiers in the castle. First, the parliamentarians cut off the defenders from their main water supply. Next, they dug tunnels to weaken the castle walls. And finally, they unleashed Roaring Meg, a gigantic cannon. The Lady's Tower was soon in ruins. Colonel John Birch, the parliamentarian leader, sent a letter to the royalist commander Sir Henry Lincoln asking him to surrender. At first, Henry refused, so the siege continued, but eventually the royalists gave in, and the castle was slighted or partly demolished, so it couldn't be used again. Roaring Meg. Not even the strongest castle walls could withstand its 85 kilograms, 200-pound shell filled with explosive gunpowder. So they really went all out to get rid of this castle. How do you become a knight? First start as a page, a boy. Started knight training when he was 7. Lived with a lord or knight doing chores and delivering messages. Also learned reading and writing, hunting and fighting. Squire. At 14, the page became a squire, given specific jobs in the lord's home, such as cleaning armour or serving at banquets. His training intensified and he learned to fight while wearing armour. Then the knight at 21, a squire could become a knight. During the knighting ceremony, he was dubbed or tapped on the shoulder with a sword, confirming him as a knight. Elmina Castle in Ghana. Interesting. It was built by the Portuguese king Juan II in 1486 as a trading post for ivory and gold, but by the 17th century mainly used to imprison slaves. The Dutch captured the castle in 1637, and it was used as part of the slave trade until 1814. And in the early 16th century, nearly a tenth of the world's gold came from the region around Elmina. Imagine a medieval castle and you might not picture palm trees, sandy beaches and ocean waves crashing under blue skies, but it was famous, Elmina Castle, for its seaside setting and its beauty. Thousands of Africans were captured and held prisoner in Elmina before being sent on ships to the Americas to be sold. Countless people suffered in the terrible conditions of the castle's dungeons. slave ships, people being used as commodities, put into dungeons for up to 3 months. Not even room to lie down, and diseases spread quickly. It's terrible. This is a view inside it. Prisoners who displeased the guards could end up in the condemned room. Literally has a skull and an X across it. Tiny space where slaves were left to die without any food or water. Slave market. Previously a church, but was converted so slave traders could buy prisoners in auctions. It's twisted, isn't it? Berkeley Castle was originally built to defend England against attacks from the Welsh, but later used to imprison King Edward II. One summer's evening, guests enjoyed an amusing performance from Dickie Pierce, a court jester. However, during his show he fell or was pushed from a balcony in the Great Hall and died. Oh dear. A hole made in the walls of the castle during the English Civil War of the 17th century was forbidden to be repaired, and it never has been. In 1327, King Edward II died suspiciously at Berkeley Castle while being imprisoned there. Many historians think he was murdered. King Edward II was kept in a small cell next to the keep after his wife, Queen Isabella, and an enemy nobleman invaded England and captured him. Some music. Organistrum. 2 players operated it. One turned the crank that made the sound, and the others pressed down on keys to change the notes. A tabor. Pipers who wanted to add a beat while they played banged a drumstick on the tabor. A rebec. A pear-shaped rebec looked a little like a modern violin. Players held the instrument on their arm while running a bow across the strings and pressing the strings with their fingers to change the notes. Herald's trumpet. They got everyone's attention to announce something. Bagpipes, the pipe. All sorts. Scaligero Castle in Italy. It's a floating fortress. It seemed impossible, but Scaligero Castle was built in the waters of Lake Garda when the Napoleonic Wars, led by Emperor Napoleon I of France, spread across Europe. The castle became a weapons store and barracks for the French forces. They kept watch for enemies from the tall ramparts, while boats delivered supplies to the walled port attached to the castle. Surrounded on all sides by water. And there's also water inside. There's water throughout. It's interesting. It's like a Venetian castle. Alhambra Palace in Spain. Local legends tell of a rich treasure buried underground and protected by a genie. Treasure hunters beware. It's a grand palace rising above the Spanish city of Granada, very famous. It had been ruled by the Nasrid sultans for centuries, who built grand palaces and gardens, but was then taken over by the Spanish, but abandoned in the 18th century. When Emperor Napoleon's French forces arrived in 1808, there was no one to defend the castle, and they destroyed it further. Which was a shame. It's a shame that all these amazing buildings are just designed to be destroyed by opposing forces, because they are truly magnificent buildings. Here are some views inside it. Look at that. The Patio de los Arayanes. The courtyard's also known as Court of the Myrtles because of the green myrtle hedges growing around its rectangular pond. Patio de los Leones. The Court of Lions is found within the Nasrid palaces. A fountain with a dozen marble lions that shoot jets of water from their mouths. Beautiful tiles. Lovely arches. A lot of Moroccan or Arabic inspiration there. Beautiful. Got some armour as well. Suit of armour. There you go, if you want to know what the different pieces of armour are called, that's obviously the helmet, the pauldron, the breastplate, the vambrace, the gauntlet, the cuisse, greave, sabaton, purlin, fold, boast a huge fort rising from the rock above the city of Marwar, glowed orange in the sunlight. Soon a royal couple would pass through the magnificent Jaipal, a beautiful painted stone gateway with heavy hand-carved wooden doors. It was the Maharaja, or King Man Singh, with his new bride. Singers and dancers hailed their ruler's arrival, and brightly decorated elephants were paraded in celebration. According to legend, a man was buried under the fort's foundations. This was meant to guarantee good fortune. Well, obviously not good fortune for the poor man who's buried underneath. It means fort of the sun, and the royal family were believed to be descended from the Hindu sun god Surya. Beautiful, look very tall, look at that, how imposing that is. And wow, look at the interiors. The Phul Mahal, or Palace of Flowers, is a highly decorated palace built by Maharaja Abhay Singh in the 18th century. Palace of Mirrors. Almost every surface of the Sheesh Mahal, or Palace of Mirrors, is covered in glass and mirrors. Pearl Palace. The walls glow a pearly white in lamplight because of the seashells crushed into the plaster. The Maharaja's rather grand bedchamber here. Almost every surface is painted from the wooden ceiling to the floor. Lovely murals. Heraldry. Friend or foe? How do you tell who is who? Charges were pictures of objects, animals, or even mythical beasts. Each charge was usually simple enough to be spotted at a distance and to be easily copied onto shields and banners. The Japanese kamon. Noble families created their own special symbols called kamon. These were used just like a coat of arms. Often circular in shape and often displayed symbols of plants, flowers and animals. Here are the names of different shape ordinaries, they're called. More variety between coats of arms. Shapes called ordinaries were added. Fess, pale, chief, chevron, cross, saltire, pile, pal, bend. Hohenzollern Castle in Germany. There'd been a castle here since the 11th century, but not one like this. Look at that beauty there in the photos. The castle as it looks today was finished in 1867, but a ghost known as the White Lady is said to roam the halls. That is amazing, isn't it? Look how beautiful that is. King Frederick William IV of Prussia, a descendant of the Hohenzollern family, visited the site in 1819 and found only the crumbling remains of a medieval fortress, so decided to rebuild it with a grand entrance and ornate turrets rising above the clouds. Fortunately, he died in 1861, but 6 years later it was ready to receive guests once again. On a clear day, the view stretched for 100 kilometres, 62 miles. You can see down there in the picture, amazing view. There was no worse fate than being trapped in a zwinger, a narrow gap between an inner wall and an outer wall that made attackers easy prey. Zigzagged around the castle. Kumamoto Castle, February 1877 in Japan. Built to be the ultimate stronghold, a fortified complex contained a keep palace of 49 turrets, 29 gates, sturdy stone walls, moats, arrow slits, and plenty of holes for dropping missiles on anybody trying to attack. Didn't bet off some very determined soldiers. The samurai warriors of the Satsuma area of Japan were angry with the government, gathered an army to march on Japan's capital, Tokyo, but had to pass through this castle to get there. Stunning. Absolutely cannot wait to visit Japan one day to visit such wonderful architecture. The tatami mats that covered the castle floors were filled with vegetable stalks so they could be eaten during a siege. That's very practical. The Mushakaishi were tall, curving walls found at the bottom of important buildings. The walls got steeper as they rose, making them hard for attackers to climb. The Akazunomon gate to the castle was never opened to keep out bad spirits. So the Satsuma Rebellion is about to face its toughest test in February 1877. The Satsuma army, led by legendary samurai warrior Saigo Takamori, had surrounded its walls. There were around 4,400 defenders from the Imperial Army inside the castle, led by Major General Tanitateki. For 2 months they fought, but Kumamoto did not fall. The arrival of thousands of extra Imperial Army troops sent the Satsuma warriors running. The two sides met again and clashed in a series of battles, but by September 1877 the Satsuma rebellion had failed. They had twice as many warriors as the Imperial Army, but it just goes to show how hard the fortification was to breach. Knight v Samurai. Sounds like a movie. Perhaps the most important asset for a knight or samurai was his horse. Samurai were the only Japanese warriors allowed to ride horses into battle, and both knights and samurai spent hours training on horseback. Very different types of weapon. Here you've got a bowl with a blade on top. The naginata can be used at a distance. Wakizashi sword had a shorter blade than a katana, and the uchin was a deadly throwing arrow. And then you have things here like just swords, maces, battle axes. Just the ornate nature of this armour, though, both of them very ornate and in very different ways. Which one do you prefer? Let me know in the comments if you've got this far. Knight or samurai? Here we have an absolute beauty of a castle. Neuschwanstein in Germany. It's a fairy tale castle. Ludwig himself spent only a handful of nights in his magical castle before his death, but it's the inspiration for, take Cinderella's castle. From Disney, so the Disney World, the castle there it's modelled on this beautiful castle. It was nearly lunchtime, but as flurries of snow sprinkled down on the fairy tale towers of Neuschwanstein Castle, King Ludwig II of Bavaria was still fast asleep. He'd taken to spending all night awake, sometimes in fancy dress, and all day in bed while his dream castle was being built. With very little real power, Ludwig wanted to build a fantasy world around himself. Neuschwanstein was Ludwig's grand project, but he died in 1886 before it was completed. Neuschwanstein means new swan stone. The name was inspired by the Swan Knight, a character from an opera that Ludwig enjoyed. Beautiful. And here it is inside. Picture cycles. Singers Hall. King Ludwig built it as a tribute to the legendary knights he admired. The kitchen was well equipped. The throne room meant that Ludwig died before he could put a throne in it, but it occupies 2 stories of the palace and contains a chandelier that is 13 feet tall, 4 meters tall. The king's bedroom, filled with ornate wooden carvings. Very fascinated with knights and operas, fairy tales. Wonderful to visit. Starting to get slightly into the modern era now, with the Castle of Good Hope in South Africa, March 1901. Star-shaped fortress on the shores of Cape Town. It was built to be tough. A group of sailors, soldiers and slaves built the huge structure under the orders of the Dutch East India Company, a large Dutch trading business, and to serve as a stopping place between Europe and Asia. The British took it over during the Second Boer War, which was fought between the British Empire and the parts of southern Africa, and it was used as a prison. There it is today, still very much in the same shape and style as it was. It was originally built on the coastline, but actually more land has been added to the shore now. Digging to freedom. There wasn't much hope for the people imprisoned in the castle, and the British owners were fighting the Boers in the Second Boer War. Captured enemies were sent to cells in the castle. Among them was Fritz Schubert-Duquesne, a spy for the Boers. Fritz had escaped many prisons, but he found himself in the Castle of Good Hope. Did he have a chance of getting out? loosen the stones so that he could escape. But the stone's walls were incredibly thick. Some were even said to be cannon-proof. And to destroy evidence of his digging, Fritz chucked each spoonful of mortar out through the open bars of his prison window. Fritz had a lifelong dislike of the British, so he joined the fight when local Boer forces waged war against them. He was repeatedly captured, but was always able to escape. After his attempted escape from Good Hope, Fritz was sent to a prison on the island of Bermuda, but again he escaped and settled in the United States. Oh dear, one night he made just enough of a hole in the wall to squeeze himself through. He slithered through the makeshift tunnel, but a heavy stone slipped down and pinned him in place. His escape plans foiled, he was found unconscious the next morning by a prison guard. Well, if you ever find yourself imprisoned in a castle, here are some great escape options. A chest. Dutch lawyer Hugo Grotius was sent to Neuschwanstein Castle in the Netherlands during a political war. His wife often sent him a huge chest of books to read. One day he slipped inside the chest and slipped past the guards. The keys Queen Mary I was kept in Lochleven Castle during a fight for the crown of Scotland. A party was arranged, and when the castle inhabitants were drunk, a young boy stole the castle keys so Mary could escape. The secret message. John Gerard was a priest who was held in the Tower of London for his religion. He wrote a message in invisible ink to his friends, who rowed a boat up to the tower to help Gerard get away. Notorious knight Erasm Luger was imprisoned in Ljubljana Castle in Slovenia for murder. Even though the castle was heavily guarded, Erasm managed to escape. Some suggested he exited through the sewer, or perhaps he bribed a guard. Edinburgh Castle in Scotland was used to hold prisoners captured in the Napoleonic Wars. In 1811, a group of 49 French prisoners chiselled through the stone defences and then used ropes to climb down the walls. They fled, but were all recaptured. Of course, this very famous escape during World War II, a team of British prisoners held at Colditz Castle, Germany, worked together to build a glider, hoping to sail over the castle walls. However, they were freed before they finished it. That would have been amazing, wouldn't it? Himeji Castle, beautiful. Look at that, beautiful. During a powerful earthquake in 1995, a bottle of sake placed on an altar in the castle did not spill a drop. Because it's being bombed here during the Second World War. The beautiful castle was used as a lord's residence and barracks for warriors in the 16th century, and during World War II, American bomber planes arrived to attack the city of Himeji, which had an important railway station. Much of the city was destroyed, but the castle escaped the falling bombs, almost. During the attack, the main part of the castle was covered in camouflage nettings to help hide it from the air. One bomb actually fell through the roof into the top floor of the keep, but amazingly it didn't explode. More than 100 aircraft headed towards Himeji City during the air attack on the 3rd of July 1945, including one of the largest bomber planes of World War II, the B-29 Superfortress. Had a lucky escape, blessed, and aren't we all lucky for it? Inside Himeji Castle, Ishiotoshi. Some walls include projections called Ishiotoshi. They have openings in the bottom that are similar to murder holes found in European castles. You can spy on intruders from them, or throwing stones or boiling water. Sama. Triangular, square or circle holes in the castle walls called Sama. Defenders could shoot through them, positioned at different heights. Roof tiles, with specially made discs with the crest of the family who built that section. Got roof guardians here, decorative statues of a half tiger, half fish creature called Sachihoko mark the ends and corners of the castle roofs. It was believed that they would protect the building against fires. Maybe they did in fact protect them against bombs, you never know. And the wooden core. The flexible wood helped the castle to sway in an earthquake instead of crumbling. A lot of foresight there. Hearst Castle in the USA, August 1929. William Randolph Hearst was born into a wealthy family and inherited a vast estate in California, USA, where he enjoyed camping trips with family and friends, but William had something grander in mind. In 1919, he used his fortune to start building a modern castle. For 28 years, he lived in Hearst Castle, used it to showcase his collection of art and antiques. He also used it to entertain, welcoming Hollywood celebrities to its many rooms and impressive gardens. William had 100 phones dotted around the estate so he could keep in touch with people. One was even behind a tree on the horse riding trail. An invite there was prized by everyone. Guests included Hollywood stars such as Charlie Chaplin, Greta Garbo and Cary Grant, as well as leading politicians such as British Prime Minister Winston Churchill. Today it contains a museum. Also has its own runway so people could arrive by aeroplane. Amazing. You don't often think about a castle being built in the 1900s in the USA, do you? But there you have it. I suppose by definition it is. We also have some additional castles here. Argubam Citadel, the largest adobe or mud structure in the world, over here. Southsea Castle in Bohemia. It was rebuilt in the 20th century based on a painting of the castle before the fire. Parlour Fort, built by the Nabani dynasty in Oman. Did you know soldiers used to pour boiling date juice onto attackers? Neuschwanstein Castle in Austria. The winding road leading up to the castle has 14 fortified gates. Prague Castle in Czech Republic, which houses the Czech crown jewels. Kilkenny Castle in Ireland. For nearly 600 years it was owned by the same family. Burghausen Castle in Germany, the world's longest castle, stretches for more than a kilometre. Gravenstein, the castle of the counts in Alsace, constructed in Belgium. Built by Philip of Alsace and constructed in Belgium. Replacing an earlier castle, it's been used as a prison, a court and a cotton mill. The Citadel of Cairo in Egypt, which contains 3 large mosques. Oh, Mont Saint-Michel, look at that. Very famous and lovely. Before a bridge was built, the path to the island was regularly submerged by the tide. Falak al-Afla Castle, built in Iran, known by as many as 5 different names. Castle Nuovo in Italy. From 1443, King Alfonso V of Aragon rebuilt the castle and added a 2-story white marble arch. Srebrenik Fortress in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Outer walls are 1.5 metre or 5 feet thick. Anadolu Sirari, a one in Turkey, twin castle, built on the other side of the Bosphorus. Leeds Castle in England, which contains a dog collar museum. Mendoza Castle in Spain. The towers have false masculations for decoration rather than in defence. Fortaleza Osama in the Dominican Republic, partially constructed from blocks of coral from the sea. The Red Fort, built by Emperor Shah Jahan in India, which gets its name from the red sandstone that it's built from. Osaka Castle. It was the biggest castle in Japan when it was built in the 16th century. The Citadel of Cape Bay in Egypt, which was built in the same spot as the Lighthouse of Alexandria, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Liechtenstein Castle in Liechtenstein, Germany, built in Germany actually, constructed on top of the foundations of an older castle. The Banadu, been used as a film location for many movies in Morocco. Belvedere Castle, a miniature castle in the United States. In Italy, it means a beautiful view. Used to view Central Park in New York. Alcazar of Segovia in Spain. Several secret passageways connect the castle to nearby rivers. Wow, look at that, the Grand Palace in Thailand, a Buddhist temple in the complex contains a statue of Buddha made from green jade. Chapultepec Castle in Mexico functioned as an observatory for a short time. Malbork Castle in Poland might be the biggest castle in the world when measured by the area of land it covers. The Forbidden City in China contains around 800 buildings. The Kremlin in Moscow, the wall around it is 2.5 kilometers long. In Great Zimbabwe, the strong stone walls of the building were built without using any mortar. And this is a layout of castles around the world, pointing you to which ones were where in the book. And then we have our glossary. So I've greatly enjoyed reading through this wonderful book. Castles, wonderfully illustrated, very accessible, very enjoyable book to read through and learn a little bit about castles throughout the history and the people who lived them and the